everybody, and welcome back. My name's Meg.
And I'm Mari.
And this is Spine and Ink.
Today we are going to be discussing our book club book of the month, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. It is her memoir. For me, right off the bat, I'm going to start off with my rating. This was a 5-star read.
Yeah, this was a 5-star read for me as well.
Yeah.
5 stars, hands down.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I have no qualms.
It was so good. I think I need to reread it when I'm like a little bit older, but being that I am just like starting out my 20s, I feel like it was a book I just like really needed right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me so much more appreciation for my friends. Not that I didn't already love them and appreciate them so much, but just on another level. I would highly recommend reading this to any girl in her 20s.
Yeah, I think everybody... honestly, like, if you're in your 20s, you're gonna relate to it a lot more because it is all about the experience of being in your 20s, but I just think that every woman should read this. I think it's, like, really applicable to just being a woman, so.
I agree.
Yeah. You want to start off with thoughts or wherever you want to start?
I mean, first things first, the book is kind of broken down into a couple different kinds of chapters. There are recipes. There are, like, what would you call those little sections where it's like an invite to something or like...
They're like her comedic take on the invitations that she receives throughout her 20s.
So whether like weddings or baby showers or birthday parties or stuff like that. And they're so funny. And then there are just chapters explaining parts of her life, like talking about separate people. And then there are the chapters where, like, everything I knew about love at 21, everything I knew about love at 25, those ones. I think out of those, my favorites were her comedic takes on all of those invites. They were just so funny. And they were good, like, comedic relief when you needed it, but also, like, so true.
Yeah, it's more just how she truly interprets, like, the invitations that people send throughout life. So baby showers, she's like, oh, well, we're just here to make everybody else feel inferior, which is, it's like the subtext of everything and how she received it, which was really, really funny.
I think those were, like, some of my favorites. But what about you?
I liked her list, like, everything that she knows about love at certain ages, or she had one chapter that was, like, everything that I hate about, or, like, things that I hate. It was, like...
That one was so funny.
Drunk men on the street telling me I'm pretty. Drunk men on the street telling me I'm ugly. Drunk men on the street.
Right? I'm like, where is that?
That was really, really funny.
It was
so pretty early on. But yeah, that was really good. I liked all of those little bits.
She has a lot of lists in here.
Or the most things people say. Here's one that I just found. Yeah. I'm more of a boys girl. Made me giggle.
Yeah.
She said, I'm a natural salesperson. I'm engaged.
The I'm engaged got me. That one was so funny.
Yeah. Because I feel that, like, to my core right now.
Yeah.
We've got a very complicated relationship. Would you like to sign Allison's birthday card? Yeah. She's just so honest and, like, real in the entire book.
I really liked that.
It's like all the things that people want to say, but they don't.
Yeah. 100%. Mm-hmm. That was a big part of it for me. Is I was like, these are all the things that we all think. We just don't say it.
Yeah, but no one says.
No one says it, but she did. So you're just like laughing along the whole book, just like, yep, very true. But she still made it, like, personal to herself, too. It wasn't just like, oh, these are things that everyone in their 20s goes through. Like, there are a lot of things that are just personal to her that we could not relate to. But she still made it very, like, honest and raw and, like, took you with her. So I really appreciated that. I think on one of the lists, one of the things she did was reasons to have a boyfriend and reasons not to have a boyfriend. That was really funny to me. There was one on here that I just feel like everyone else will appreciate. On reasons not to have a boyfriend, I tabbed it. It says not reading as much. I said, real girl, real. That one was really funny. There were a couple.
Oh, here it is. Things I'm scared of. Drunk men on the street telling me I'm tall. Drunk men on the street telling me I'm fat. Drunk men on the street telling me I'm sexy. Drunk men on the street telling me I'm ugly. Drunk men on the street telling me to cheer up. And it just goes on and on and on.
It just continues.
And it's hilarious. It's like
so funny.
It's really true though. I just don't want men to tell me anything.
Yeah. Just don't speak to me.
Just don't speak to me.
Don't.
I guess, okay, my other favorite part of this book was that it starts off very much like talking about her obsession with boys and how that continues throughout her life and like the obsession with romantic love.
Yeah.
But the entire book is not about that. The entire book is about the love of her friends.
Yeah.
And how much she loves her friends and how her friends show her the most unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it's really like a love letter to her relationship with her best friends, mainly like I would say India and Belle and Farley.
Yeah. Yeah, which is so sweet because she talks about romantic love a lot, but it's just in turn being like, actually, all of this, like, you know, experience in that category made me realize how much I appreciated like my friends and how much that love was what I really needed. And, you know, that's plenty for me. I don't need romantic love to like survive if I have
she'd
friends, which is so sweet.
She'd touch on a relationship where she's like, I had been dating this guy for 2 years. And I was like, whoa, we didn't touch on the relationship at all. But she'll talk about the breakup. Yeah. And all of that just includes how she dealt with it with her friends.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely about friends. And there was, I have to find when she talked about meeting her college friends because it was so sweet. It was so good. Oh, she talked about, she says, we stole traffic cones that piled up in our living room. We picked each other up and threw each other around on club dance floors. We talked about sex like it was a team sport. We were puffed up on bravado and how do you say that?
I don't know.
Rhodomontade? I think that's how you say it. And we operated with ruthless honesty and zero competition with each other, often boring each other's prospective conquests senseless with long drunken lectures about how amazing our friend was. And I literally wrote next to it, Goo Girls for Life, because this was like exactly verbatim what it was like to live with my friends in college. And they're my best friends ever now, but like meeting them was like the best part of my life, honestly.
Aww.
And I just related to that so heavily.
Yeah. It was a little different for me. I didn't have that in college. I thought I was going to, and then I did not. But I have a few Farleys. Like, I have a few of them rather than just one. And Farley is her friend that she met, like, in childhood. Like, friend
her, like,
her
best
whole
friend.
life. Like, her best friend. And so I just, like, I loved that so much because I was like, I have a couple of those. Like, my closest friends are all friends that I've had for, like, a really long time. And so I think those, like, bring a little more true to me than, like, that part.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I have a Farley and I have, like, my college best friends.
Yeah. This book was just so good.
Yeah, it made me cry a lot.
Yeah. There were many tears shed.
Her description as well of her eating disorder was really, really true and like
but I felt like it was so digestible.
Yeah,
like,
very well spoken and like exactly what it feels like to be like in that headspace. All of it, she said, I carried on because it was the only thing that I could control. I carried on because I just wanted to be happy, and everyone knows when you're thinner, you're happier. And I was like, I've been there, girl. I've so been there. It's a control thing. And when you're like that out of control in life, as she was, which made me feel much less crazy, and that's like the one thing you can control.
Yeah. Oh, it totally makes sense. But the way that she wrote it, I was like, to people who haven't gone through that specifically, that put it in perspective, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't just write it in a way that still they don't quite understand it. Like, people that haven't been through that are, like, never fully going to understand it. But a lot of the time, it's never explained in a way they can understand or see, like, oh, I see how that happened. You know, they're always just like, well, why would you do that? And that's, like, where it ends. And I feel like that put it in a perspective where you can say, oh, okay, I totally can see how that would happen to somebody. And so I really appreciated how she wrote that.
Yeah, it was really good. She was like
Yeah.
she really brought you into her brain and her thought process.
Yeah.
At least personally. While there were still moments that I was like, girl, get it together. But I understood like why she was in that situation and why she was making those decisions. And I just felt very connected to her.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's a very, very talented writer.
She is.
Very,
very much so.
Writer.
I felt like she wasn't just telling stories. That wasn't it. She was telling like how she felt while that story was going on, or her thought process of like everything that was going on in that story, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, I'm not just reading someone telling me stories throughout their life. Like there was so much more to it, which I was a little worried about. I have never read a memoir before this one. This is my first memoir.
Really?
So,
This was a really good first
And I was like, this is a really good first one. Yeah. But I was a little scared of the category because I was like, well, it's just going to be someone telling a bunch of stories and like, I don't know this person. Like, okay. But no, it was so much more than that. It was incredible. I have already recommended it to everybody I speak to. All of my friends. I'm like, please read this book. Mm-hmm. All of my coworkers have been like, y'all should read it. Y'all should read it. But I just think that it made me, at least, feel so much better. Again, I'm only 20, and she's talking about, like, at 25, still being super lost. And I was like, okay, that makes me feel so much better. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, dropped out of college, like, all that. And so that's, like, really, really easy to harp on and, like, freak out and be like, oh, my God, I'm so behind. But I'm like, oh, never mind. Like, I'm not. I feel like I'm at a pretty normal place in my life, just trying to figure it out. I'm 20. Like, how would I know? And it made me feel better, but also not in a way where I was like, well, it could be that. But, like, it wasn't like that. It was just okay, like, this is fairly normal. Like, everyone.
You are the same age as she is at the beginning of this
book. I know, which is why I was like, oh, like, okay.
You're not
and look at her now. Like, she's so successful.
You're not even close to the age of the first season of Friends.
I know, which is like...
You have so much time.
I just have to remind myself that sometimes, but this was a good reminder.
Yeah. No, this was perfect timing for me.
Yeah.
Being 23, almost 24.
Yeah.
That so much of this book, I was like, I can take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm like in a very, I'm in the very early stages of my career creation and building my career and still trying to like figure things out and figure out my relationships, and all of my friends are all kind of spreading out into different places, and that's like a whole other experience. And so reading this and being able to relate to things in her early 20s and then see like how much time I still have, and that she didn't really feel fully fleshed out even by the time she turned 30.
Yeah.
Like, she freaked out about turning 30.
Yeah. Which I feel like that is not uncommon.
No.
But
it definitely gave me an existential crisis a bit, but
just a little.
It was nice to hear that it's always scary. You never know what's going on.
Yeah. Every single time she wrote, like, everything I knew about love as, you know, at 21, everything I knew about love, whatever, the book starts with everything I knew about love as a teenager. And I was reading it and I was like, yeah, sounds about right. Like, it was never anything different than what we all, like, knew about love at that age too. Where I was like, oh, okay, we also all interpreted this the same. Which is interesting because she's from the UK. So, a couple of things were different. But I also, like, felt really good about being able to relate to that when I'm reading this. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I thought in, like, high school. This is what I thought, you know, then. And then I started reading more and I was like, this is how I want to view love. Like, once it got later on and it was, like, everything I knew about love, finally at the end at, like, 30, I was like, okay, this is how I want to feel about love. And so it was, like, teaching me throughout, but I could still appreciate that. And so the very beginning of the book, what I tabbed is like the literal first line, and it's everything I knew about love as a teenager. And she says, romantic love is the most important and exciting thing in the world. And I totally get that. It's like, I think we all felt that way. Mm-hmm. You're in high school, everyone's like getting in relationships, all the movies and books you're reading and everything makes it seem that way. And I still kind of feel that way sometimes. But it was just funny because I was like, yep. And it totally makes sense why we feel that way. And so it kind of made me start thinking about like, okay, why would we feel that way about love at whatever teen year? Why would we feel that way about love at 20? Why would we feel that way about love at like 25? I started analyzing it a bit more and I was like, yeah, it totally makes sense. That just made me think a lot. And I liked it.
Yeah. I liked her whole era of therapy.
Yeah.
And getting into therapy. It made me kind of think more about how I view my own therapist because I've been with her for so long, but I was like, the way she talked about harboring some sort of like resentment or like having all these, I guess you could say, negative feelings towards her therapist at certain points because that was what she was like projecting onto her therapist. And I was like, I wonder if I ever do that. Like, do I ever get annoyed with her or like mad or like throw things? So that just made me think about that. And I found it really, really interesting that she was like, every single negative experience that you have, while it might not be like totally your fault, you have had a hand in that. Yeah. You have had a part in that experience, whether it's like the way that you think about yourself or the way that you're thinking about other people or the way that you're approaching communication through that. Like you did have a part in that situation. While it may not be inherently your fault, but you need to evaluate like you yourself and what you're doing wrong, and how you can improve. And I thought that was it was just like put a really good way. Yeah. That it was very blunt and honest and kind of turning the mirror back on yourself, but also didn't feel like accusatory or anything. I just thought it was like a really good way to put that.
It did make me feel a little bit better. I mean, we're both in therapy, so it did make me feel a little bit better about like, okay, when I go to therapy, doesn't mean it's like completely your fault what happened to you. It's just admitting, okay, yeah, I had a part to play in that, or I had a part to play in how I reacted to that kind of thing, which is not something I avoid. It's just like something that never feels good. Like it never feels good to have to take accountability for those kinds of things. So that did make me feel better about like, okay, when I go in there and I'm saying, yeah, this part was on me, or yeah, I reacted this way, or I thought this way about myself, that's what you should be doing.
No, I don't know. There's just like so much about this. I could go on.
I'm like, we're just yapping about it, but I don't know, I'm looking through all my tabs and they're like all different things. There was a couple things that were just quotes I really liked, but there was one that I kind of really related to, again, very early on in the book when she's talking about boys and she's like, I would meet them, through like a phone or something because that was how I would get to know them from a distance. And then I would go meet them, but I would never form a deep connection because the expectations were always there. I was always feeling disappointed when I finally met them, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I really relate to that. I'm terrified of men. They scare me. So I'm like, okay, well, if like I can't just meet a guy and like him, I have to like know everything about him first. But it kind of made me rethink it. But I think that's why I never it's very, very hard for me to like form a deep connection with them or feel connected to like any guy or feel like I like actually like him, because I'm like, I already had expectations and you're not meeting them. Like, what's going on? You're not following the script that I wrote in my head. So like, that's on you. But also friends too. Like, your friend will be like, hey, I really want you to meet my friend, and they'll describe this person and whatnot. And so I kind of do the same thing where I'm like, okay, so I expect them to be one way, and if they're not, I'm kind of like thrown off and I don't know how to interact with them, and then it goes poorly. Like, not bad. Like, I don't connect with people the same just because I'm like, okay, I do all this like work leading up to it, and then the expectations aren't met because of course they're not.
Yeah, I've had kind of the opposite experience in that I've never met anybody online and then met them in person. That's like never been a thing that I've done. I have only ever dated and or been on dates with friends people that I was already friends with.
Yeah.
Or friends of friends. So
mine hasn't been like online, but it's been like friends of friends or things like that. Or I do too much stalking before I meet them, and then I think I know everything.
No, I've always had like, or at least all my romantic connections have always come from friendship first. So that was different for me, or at least probably the least relatable part of the book for me. But that's just because I haven't had any online dating experiences or like in-personal meetings with people that I now have like big connections with.
Yeah.
Except for maybe my college roommate, my first year of college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything's been like in person.
Yeah. It's also just like, I always thought I would prefer it that way. And after reading how she wrote it out, I was like, oh, maybe that's not the best way to go about it.
No,
So.
I don't think so. I think, yeah.
But that makes sense for you. Like, all of yours have come from friendships first.
Yeah.
Or like, even your close friends, you know.
Yeah.
You didn't really like meet online first or anything like that. It was like, or you didn't meet through someone else.
No.
You just met them and that was the way it was.
Yeah. Except for, I guess, like, Alex. I met through friends, but even then it was like...
But even then you didn't go in with like all this knowledge.
No,
yeah, you weren't like set up.
We weren't set up to be together in any type of way or set up to go on a date. We just ended up meeting at an event.
Right.
So...
Yeah, and see, I've never had that.
Yeah.
It's always been, hey, let me tell you everything about this person before you meet them. And so then I always go in with like big expectations or something. And then when that person isn't exactly what I built up in my head, I'm like, oh. And I don't know, I just like, oh, it made me think. I was like, dang, that's so true. There was the line that I highlighted. She said, perhaps it was because this was the only way I'd learned to get to know someone with a distance in between us, with enough space for me to curate and filter all the best versions of myself possible, all the good jokes, all the best sentences, all the songs I knew he'd be impressed by. And then she's talking about like, you know, she would normally get like songs from friends or something, like try to build up herself before meeting that person to like fit her expectation of them, kind of make up a script in her head before she met them. And that I just like really related to, not just romantically, but like in general.
Did you find her journey inspiring, frustrating, both?
Honestly, more inspiring. Like, I feel like if I was her friend, I'd be frustrated. I'd be shaking, or I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? I have friends that I feel that way with often. But at the same time, I was like, no, but I feel like we're all that way with our friends. Like, my friends probably feel the same way about me. They're like, what the hell are you doing? So mostly inspiring. There was a little bit of frustration where I was like, girl, what are you doing? You know this is not going to go well, or you know this is not going to work out for you. Like, what is going on? But then she would explain, you know, how she got in that situation, why she made that decision. I'd be like, oh, yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah, I would say it's inspiring too. I, like I said, had moments where I went, oh my God, girl.
Yeah.
But even then, it was more me feeling that way in solidarity, not necessarily in annoyance. Because the way that she wrote it felt so like I was going through it with her.
Yeah.
I would have made probably similar choices if I were her. Like,
Right.
I don't think I would have changed anything that she did. So I don't know if it was necessarily frustration, but just that the way that she wrote it, we all knew how it was going to end. So I was like, dang it. But yeah, she was very inspiring to me, especially about her career and putting a lot of work into her career, and that she's like freelance and all of that stuff relates like a lot to what I do. And so it was nice. It was very nice to hear her talk about like not being financially stable like ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I'm not alone, because it feels like, looking into everyone's life from the outside, that everyone kind of has their shit together, especially when people are like my age and she said, she had a line where she was like, when you're 27, you could just as easily be married and have 2 kids as you could be like still living with like 2 other roommates.
Yeah.
She's like, either way, like you could be getting drunk on a Saturday with your roommates, or you could have like 2 kids and be married at 27, and both are acceptable. And
She's talking about how you don't have to have kids.
Yeah,
you don't
that
have
makes
to
me
be
feel
married.
so
like, you don't have
much
to do
better.
any of that to be like in the place that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, it's like it makes me feel so much better to know that I am only 23. I do not have to have a house. I do not have to know what I'm doing. I do not have to be financially independent in the way that I wish I could be. Like,
right.
It's all okay. So yeah, very inspiring. Not really frustrating at all.
Oh, this just made me laugh. Just a funny quote. She was talking about this guy that she met and dated for a while. And she just said he had the sort of peculiar, unshakable confidence that had so obviously been cultivated at a public school.
Yeah, that was funny. I laughed.
We were literally talking about public school like the other night because of this book, and we were like, yeah, like public versus private and whatnot. And I was like, that's so accurate, though. That just made me laugh a lot, but it was more just because of the fact that we had talked about that. Oh, sorry, this is another funny one. I feel like every girl has this experience. She said he picked up a guitar. Oh no, not this. Anything but this.
Yeah, that was really good too.
I said, if you've ever had a guy play the guitar at you, you so get it. You so get it. But why is that like a universal experience where they're like, I just want to like show you something. I just want to play something for you.
This book felt like what the Barbie movie wanted to be.
Period.
You know? Yeah. I really think it is.
Yeah.
This is like what the Barbie movie wanted to be. But obviously the Barbie movie was made for kind of children, and this is for adults. But this is everything that I wanted out of that. And I guess what I will like leave us with, or like the big takeaway I had from this, she was walking with Farley after Florence passed away. And she says, I was grateful for understanding in that moment that life can really be as simple as just breathing in and out. And I was thankful to know what it was to love the person walking next to me as much as I did. So deeply, so furiously, so impossibly.
That is so sweet.
And it's just so sweet. I just love being a woman.
How I love being a woman.
That's what this is.
Yeah, for real. This last part says, be the person you wish you could be, not the person you feel you're doomed to be. Let yourself run away with your feelings. You were made so that someone could love you. Let them love you. And I loved that. Again, does not need to be romantically.
No, the whole thing was not about romantic love.
No.
It was about women, loving women, and the female friendships. You know, that is one thing I feel bad for men. They will never know what it's like to have female friendships.
No.
Like, they don't know.
No. They'll never get it. It's just...
They'll never get it. It's so special.
There's just such a big difference. Yeah. I mean, we'll never understand what it's like to be a guy, and they're like guy friendships, but...
Oh, it's not even close to the same.
I don't know. I mean, how would we know? But it's not. It's just not.
I know it's not.
Like, I'll sit on the floor of the bathroom while my best friend is, like, in the shower having a phone call, and we're, like, sitting on the floor talking, like, or, you know, things like that where they'll, like, put a call on speakerphone and you're sitting in the room, like, listening with them. Like, you're there for everything, and they're there for everything for you. I just feel like they're not the same.
They're not the same. I've watched male friendships. It's not the same. It's so not the same.
Valid.
Well, and with that, we hope that you enjoyed the book as much as we did.
Yeah.
Leave your comments below. Please tell us your thoughts, quotes that stuck out to you, things that you related to. Shout out your best female friends.
Yeah.
Whatever you are feeling.
We would love to hear about it. And if you have any books that are similar, like book recommendations that you feel we would like, let us know, per usual.
And then next month, our book club for next month is going to be Bunny by Mona Awad. I think is how you say it.
I believe so.
Yeah, Mona Awad. So we're very excited.
I'm excited about that one. Yeah, super different.
Switch up.
Super different.
But we're super pumped. So if you have already read it, look forward to that next month. And if you haven't, you have the whole next month to read it. So
go read it or listen to it. Either one is valid. And then come back and join us next month.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we will have stuff for you next week.
Yes.
So
and some exciting things coming up.
So subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, both at spineandink_pod.
Period.
And yeah,
I think that's everything.
See you next week.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.